obviously excited. Report day is always kind of, to me, the kickoff to the year and the season. And for me and our staff, we've seen how these young men have worked, and we're so excited just to get back on the field and start the season as well. I'm going to start off by first of all, foremost of just thanking some people. I want to make sure I thank my wife, who's kind of holding the fort down with the kids as the football season starts here, and I'm kind of away from home. She always does a great job. And my daughter Resiah, and they're helping us out as well. So we'll say hi to them and thank her for what she does. And then also Randall Richmond and President Dyken for all the support they give to our football program and their leadership. Has been awesome up to this point, and I'm excited about doing the first football season with them as well. And then I also want to wish some good lucks to our women's volleyball team, Haley, as she kicks off her season. Our women's soccer team and Rob as he kicks off this season. We'll know they're starting camp as well. And then our field hockey team and Kyle as she gets going too. So it's an exciting time for all of us as we embark on our seasons and as we get going for the 2023-2024 football season and athletic department kind of season as well. So I'm going to start by our football team. They've worked so hard up to this point. The players from winter conditioning, I saw growth and development to spring ball. I saw growth and development from an X&O standpoint to summer conditioning. These guys have just worked their tails off. And I love this football team. I've said that over and over again. I said that in Mac Media Days. I love this football team. And I love them because they're giving everything they possibly can to the coaching staff and the strength staff and everything. And I love that about the team. You've got that, that's a start. And if you can build off that and put them in position to be successful as coaches, you got some good play for your football team as well. I think when you look at our football team, there's kind of the tell of two stories. Offensively, we are very young. We are inexperienced. We've got 11 new starters playing on offense. I've kind of flipped that. I learned this from my old boss, PJ, is when things happen, you flip it to make it a positive. And I'm saying we've got the most opportunistic team, our offensive players that can play this year. So there's a lot of good young talent that you're going to see. There's probably some new names that are going to emerge after the first couple of games. You're going to say, wow, that kid's got a future to be a great player someday for Kent State. And that's what excites me as a coach. You look at our quarterback position, I'll start there. It's a true battle. Right now, we will not name a quarterback probably until after the scrimmage, which is the middle of fall camp. But it's a battle between Tommy Erlizowski, that's his last name, Griffin Brewster, Devin Kirkman, and then we brought Mike Almino into a guy who transferred in from Purdue. They're all going to have an equal opportunity to present themselves up to that scrimmage, and that scrimmage will let it rip, and we'll come out of that and we'll name a starter. I think all four of those guys had a great offseason in the summer, did a phenomenal job, along with Jerry Lewis, I missed him there. They all did a great job this summer working and developing, and that excited me as well. The running back position is probably our deepest position on our football team. We've got what we call 1A, 1B, 1C between Kai Thomas, Gavin Garcia, and X, a guy who played here before. And they're all different in their own way. You look at him, Kai is kind of an area down back. He's played. He was at Minnesota with me. I'm very familiar with him and his ability. He's a guy who was the bowl game MVP when he was at Minnesota. I'm excited to work with him again. I think X has got big play potential. As you know, he can hit a home run whenever he touches the ball. He's an explosive back. And then I tell everybody, Gavin Garcia, I've been coaching for a long time. I know a good football player when I see it. And Gavin Garcia is a heck of a football player. And he's going to have a role as well. And like I said, they're 1A, 1B, 1C. Depending on who's got the hot hand that day, they'll get more carries. Then you look at the tight end position, you got some good players there. And Justin Holmes and Hayden Junker, two guys that are very athletic, very talented, and we're going to battle it out. Definitely both of them as well. Then, the position that is probably the most people are wondering about the most is the O-line position. We've got a lot of new faces up there, 5 new starters. I think that it's a young group, but it's an exciting group. They're developing. They had a great offseason. I think Matt Lineberger does a great job with that group. And as you look at them, it's probably spearheaded by Nolan Rumler, who's a starting center. He's a transfer from Michigan, a guy who had a heck of a spring. He's been a great leader this offseason. And then you got Ken Golden, another one that's a for sure leader. That's doing a great job as well. And there's a lot of young players that are kind of filling in other spots that are battling for those other starting spots. But very excited about them. And then our receiver, very, very similar to our offensive line, our receiving group it's just a lot of new faces. We got great talent there, in my opinion. It's just how quick can that talent develop? You know, you got Terrell Harris, Quintrell Harris, who's a good young player who's played a little bit. You got Luke Floria, who's been here for forever, and it's finally his time to take the reins. I'm really excited about Jamil Gardner, who's another good player for us. And then there's others that Deshaun McCray is another good player too. And then we got some young players that are good players too, Dash Dorsey and some other guys. So a lot of talent there. Just again, how quick can it mature and become a very mature group and learn from their mistakes that they make in the first couple games and using them for their progress. Then on the defense side of the ball, I say it's completely different. We've got a experienced defense to me, but they just haven't played with each other yet. We've got guys who came back like C.J. West, Caleb Johns, but then we added some transfer guys in there as well, Tyler Bear, Devin Nicholson, and so forth. So again, defensively, it's just a lot of people who need to play together and become a cohesive unit. You know, we started our defensive line. I think it's the strength of our defense along with our secondary. We look at it, C.J. West is, I think, an all-conference type player. And then we got two young players that I think are exceptional, and Oliver Billick and Stephen Daly, who are both going to play as well. Stephen at the end position, Oliver at the other three technique. Then Maceo Williams has played a lot of football for us too. And it's going to be a big part of that. And then at the rush position, you got Tyler Bear, Matt Harmon, who are both terrific players. And then we call Stretch, who was a transfer from Virginia Tech. He's here as well. So a lot of talent up front, a lot of people that can play. It's going to be some great battles going on up there that we're excited about as well. And then in our linebacker position is probably the one that we probably need more depth at. We got to find some guys who can play there, who can mature and grow to give us a little bit of depth to that position. But right now, it's Caleb Johns in the middle. I think Caleb Johns is our best football player on our team. I have no problem saying that by far. He's an exceptional player. He's got a football instinct. He leads our defense. He leads our team. He was at Mac Media days, and like I said there, I think he's just him and C.J. West are just exceptional football players and men. And then you got Devin Nicholson as well, another linebacker transfer from Missouri, who I'm really excited about. He's extremely athletic. He's played a lot of football in the SEC. Wanted to come to where he could be the guy, and he's done that here. He's developed into a really good player. And then C.J. West and Rocco will kind of fight for our Sam/nickel position as well. And those two good players. They have different attributes, but really excited about both of them. And then the secondary. I tell this all the time. I love our back four. I think our back four could play at any place I've been at up to this point. You've got DJ Miller, who is really one of our captains on our football team. Will be a captain on our football team. You've got Capone Blue at the other corner position. Two just athletic, gifted players that I'm expecting a lot out of. Then you got our safeties with Alex Branch and Josh Baca, who are really good players as well. And then we got some guys behind them that I think our safety position is one of our most competitive positions. As we got Dallas Crabtree, who's transferred from Iowa, and then Jelani Williams, who was a transfer from Missouri to get the depth there. So when you look at our defense, it's a lot of guys who play college football at different places. It's about getting them all together to be one and play as a cohesive defense. And that's why I brought Dave Duggan here. Dave and me have known each other for a long time. He's going to do a great job with our defense, and I've already seen the growth just a short period of time. So that's our football team. Our kicker, obviously, is Mr. Glass. He had a great summer as well. And then our punter, we're kind of battling out between two guys there. But really excited about this football team. And like I said, the thing to me is how quickly can we grow up and become the most connected team in the country. We had a word when I first got here. I said, there's one thing we got to do this year, guys. And it's one word. And I said, we got to just become tougher. Last year, in my opinion, we weren't a tough enough football team. When adversity hit, we didn't handle it very well. We've got to be able to handle adversity and be able to be better when it happens. And we talk about three things when adversity hits. Be better, not bitter, okay? Meet it with creativity and positivity, and then be you. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to do too much. Just be you. And the guys have taken that. They ran with it. And we can become a really tough football team. I think we'll have a chance to have a pretty good season. But love this team. Excited about this team. And I'll take any questions that anyone has.
All right, let's open it up to some questions. We'll start with Jacob Shondel from our Kent Stater. Jacob, if you want to unmute and ask some questions for Coach.
Yeah, hello, Coach. I know you talked a lot about how important PJ Fleck has been for your career, but just what has been easier or harder in your transition from assistant head coach since 2019 to now being a head coach?
Yeah, I would say I can't thank Coach Fleck enough. Brandell said in his press conference, he said, I was the most prepared guy to be a head coach who's never been a head coach. Well, that's a credit to PJ. He gave me a lot of knowledge. He let me inside of areas that most people don't let you in their football team. When it comes to how to be a head coach, the players, the boosters, the administration, the staff, I got to do all that with them. So that's been the biggest thing. I think the one thing you're never prepared for is that each institution is different. Minnesota is very different than Kent State. The problems that we had in Minnesota are not the problems that we have here. And it's just, again, being able to meet those problems with creativity and staying positive. You have a plan, you work the plan, but then you also have to plan for the unexpected. And that's kind of been my mantra in every aspect of the football program. I think the biggest thing that you learn that you kind of don't prepare yourself for is buy-in. You got to get people to buy into what you're doing. You have to have a clear vision that you can articulate to them, and that's what I'm learning. You got to cultivate relationships and get buy-in. That's probably been the hardest thing that I've gotten. And it's not just buy-in from the players; it's buy-in from everybody, from the community to the administration to everyone, the coaches. You got to get everybody to buy in. And we're way further along than we were, but the more that you give them time, consistency, and proof, the more people will buy into what you're doing.
Yeah, and then just going back to your playing days at Indiana, were you ever an influence then that you would be going into the coaching tree? And then just if so, how did that make things easier for you since then?
Yeah. So once I got done playing, Terry Hefner called me up and he said to me, I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to be a lobbyist. So that was my whole goal. And Terry Hefner came to me and he said, I think you'd be an excellent football coach. And he was my coach at Indiana at the time. And I thought about it a little bit, and then Jerry Bernardo actually recruited me in Indiana from the Big Ten Network. He had been a really big influence in my life. So I called him and I asked him what he thought, and he said, I think you're right. I think you should give this a shot. And so then I knew right away that it was something that I wanted to do. And once I got in it at Millersville University, there was no turning back. My wife probably thinks I should have maybe turned back at times because she liked to see me more. No, it's a joke. She loves this as well. But no, it's been a great journey. I wouldn't want to do anything else.
And then just lastly from me, just what have been your initial reactions to the Kent campus, the atmosphere, and just really the student body overall since you've been here?
Yeah, I know people say this all the time. I think this place is a sleeping giant. It's one of the biggest institutions in the state of Ohio. The student room, our student room is going up. It's a great place to live, to raise a family. I'm excited about being here. I love it. I love the support that we get between our administration, the support we get from the student body. I think now we just got to put a product on the field that can make people excited about being here. And that's what Kent Grit is, honestly. Kent Grit is a mantra that not just for a football team, for a community, it's for a student body to all get behind and wear it proud. And the players are starting to wear it proud, and the more we put positive results on the field, I think other people will jump in as well. But I've been so excited about the community and the support we've gotten up to this point. It's been absolutely exceptional.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Let's go to Cleveland Media and Cameron Palmer. Cameron, you got some questions for Coach?
Coach, first thing I want to ask is you mentioned how your young team, you have 11 new starters on offense. Tell me what it's going to be like to try and get all 11 guys to think alike and work on the same page this season, especially this being your first season as a head coach.
Coach, if you didn't hear that question, then for our audience, with you said such a young team, especially on offense, talk about how important this camp is in the early part of the season to get the unit to kind of gel together and become a cohesive, high-flying unit.
Sure. That's my number one goal. Be honest with you, since spring ball ended, I've been meeting with other head coaches to talk about how do you make basically a cohesive offense when everybody's coming from different walks of their journey. And the biggest thing I found is you put in situations where they have to meet adversity together. In the summer, we did some certain things that, they had to rely on each other to have success in their summer conditioning. The same thing's going to happen in fall camp. You got to get them connected with each other. You got to put them in situations where they have to rely on each other. You got to put them in situations off the field where we get to know each other. And that's what we've been doing. We're going to do that again. I think I believe that to have success, you have to play for each other. And I think that's what we got to do on offense. We've got to first, obviously, name a quarterback that can lead the group. But then once you get that, you get your leader in place. Now it's just about connecting everyone. And I think our strength conditioning staff, Coach Jake, did a great job this summer of trying to create situations to connect their offense with his workouts and how he did it, how he paired people up, the teams they were in, how we grouped some things. So guys knew each other. So you can have tough conversations and meet the battle with each other. So I think that's a great question. I think we're working through it. And I think like anything, a little bit of experience will help it. Getting out there, going through some battles and adversity together in the first couple games will help. And or someone asked me the other day at a caravan, what's the biggest thing you're looking forward to this year with this team? And I said, the biggest thing I'm looking for is growth, because I know it's going to happen. I know we're going to eventually click on offense. I know we're going to click on defense, and you're going to see maybe the team you see game 1 is going to be very different than the team you see game 4, game 5, and 6. And these guys will play together a little bit. So that's what I'm excited about. And again, great question, but we're doing things to definitely connect this offense.
Cameron, any other questions for Coach?
Yeah, another thing I want to touch on is during MAC Media Day, coaches ranked you as the last seed. Just kind of tell me about what the mentality is and how are you going to get everybody to come together and have that underdog mentality for the season.
So the question regarding MAC Media Days, you guys pick 6 and the coaches poll in the East. Kind of just talk about the chip on your shoulder and how you're going to use that as a kind of a motivating factor, if at all.
Yeah, we're not. The one thing I'll say about the MAC is every year it's got a different winner. So I don't put a lot of stock in the preseason polls. I think I would vote us last too if I were a coach. Because why? Because we literally are the most unexperienced team in America. Phil still put that out in his magazine a couple months ago that we're the most unexperienced team in America. Why? Because we got 11 new starters on offense and 5 on defense. So there's a lot of inexperience here. So there's a lot of unknowns when you look at our roster. The coaching staff, we know what we have. And like I said, I've coached at every level, from North Dakota State to Wyoming to Western Michigan to Minnesota, and I know what a winner looks like. And I know what the pieces that you need to have a winner. And I can tell you, we have the pieces in place to have a winner. I know that much. Again, it's about how quickly can this team connect. I said this when I first met with the team, the first meeting. My number one goal is to make this the most connected team in America. Because if we can be the most connected team in America and play for each other, the ability is there. I've always given Sean credit. He's recruited well. There's talent there, it's just inexperienced talent. And we've got as coaches to develop that and get it there sooner than later. But I'm not looking at a poll, honestly. I'm looking at my team. I know what we got. I know how talented we are. I know what we have to do to be a talented football team. And then put them in places to make plays and stuff like that. And we'll continue to do that and focus on that. But I told this team, we're focused on our 4 walls. That is it. Okay, the 4 walls of our team meeting room, who's in that, who's in there. Make sure we're holding guys accountable. Make sure we're living the Kenni Burns lifestyle, and make sure we're changing our best every single day to get a little bit better.
Cameron, any final questions for Coach? All right. Again, if you guys have questions for Coach Kenni Burns, please use the raise hand feature if you're in the Zoom, or drop it in the chat if you're watching on Facebook Live. With that, let's go to the voice of the Kent Grit era, Mr. Rob Polinsky. Rob, any questions for Coach?
Thanks, Dan. Coach, I was wondering, what do you think the identity of the team might be, and how long does it take to establish the identity of a team, and is that different, every year?
Yeah. Okay. So our identity is Kent Grit. We've got to grow. We've got to respond to adversity. We've got to have our integrity when we respond, know who we are, do it the right way. But then when we got to do it together. That is the bottom line. That's what this program will always be as long as I'm head coach. But each year, like you said, it's different. The first year of Kenni Grit, to me, to handle that, what we talk about is toughness. Like, we've got to be a tougher football. And we really broke toughness down in the 4 C's. And we started it by saying, when I first got here in winter conditions, we said it starts with a challenge. Okay, like, you have to understand, in order to be tough and to grow, there's a challenge that comes with it. You got to challenge your life to be the best you can be, academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. So we made the winter as hard as it could possibly be for our guys to show that, okay, are you going to respond to this challenge that we're giving you? You sit in the first 2 rows of the class, and you engage your professors, right? Academically, athletically, okay, we're challenging you to change your best every single day. There's nothing that's good enough. The next day, you got to be better. And then socially, we did these what we call Black for Life program. We gave them life skills, challenge to be better in social life. So there was this challenge that happened right away in fall camp, in winter conditioning. And then the second C about being tough, we talked about the spring ball, was like, now that you understand the challenge, you've accepted it, now how do you control yourself? How do you control yourself consistently with the same thing day after day after day after day after day? And hold yourself to the standard every single day. But we believe you control yourself, you control your opponent. Okay, you control how you feel, how you handle adversity, you then can control your opponent. And we truly believe that. So we focused on that all day and all spring ball. It's constant that control yourself. Bad things happen, control your emotions. But the other guy gets tired. We talked about that type of stuff. So control was all about spring ball. Then we got to summer, and the third seed was about commitment. And that'll lead into fall camp too. Now you know what the challenge is. Now you know how to control yourself through the challenge and make sure you're got a good mental state. Now you can be committed to that when no one's watching. There's no fans, there's no open practices, there's no coaches there really. Are you going to stay committed to that process? And we talked about the power of one more. And what that meant was the power of doing one more rep when no one's watching. It's going to give you eventually an advantage. And that was our whole summer thing. And then we'll talk about the last seed as we finish fall camp. I can't give you that one yet, they don't know that. But that'll be the big one that leads into the season. But year one at King Grit is all about toughness. It's not about wins and losses. It's not about, we got to win 6, got to win 7, got to win the 9. It's about, can we become a tough enough football team and find a way to handle adversity to make us a better football team. In the end, that'll pay off down the road for sure. So we're sticking to that. They know that. And I'll tell them when they're a tough enough football team. We're not there yet, but we're definitely trending in that direction.
Thank you, Coach. One other thing I was wondering, how important was it for you for the program to retain Coach Johnson, to retain Coach Farrell, then bring in yourself, all the new coaches, and just kind of how that relationship with you and Matty J has evolved to where you want to get this offense where you want it, heading into camp?
Yeah, I think it was really important. When I got hired, the first thing I want to do, you have your list. You got guys that you want to hire. You got guys that you're excited about, that you want to bring in. But my biggest thing was, okay, before I get to that list, let's get to the staff. Let's really interview the staff and see who makes sense with here, who can get aligned with you. Alignment to me is so important. They have to align with your vision for the program, or eventually it'll surface up and cause problems. So I met with all the guys. Then I watched them through the recruiting weekend. Then I talked to our current players. And the consistency that I got were the 3 guys I kept were extremely loved by our players. They were men of great character, and you saw their value. And then the biggest things, they were better than the guys I had on my sheet to bring in. And I think that's where you put your pride aside and say, okay, does this guy make more sense than who you want to bring in? And they all did. And Matty J, I'll start with him. I think he's a young, rising star in the profession. I think that he's ready to be an offensive coordinator. I actually knew him before I even got this job. We ran into each other on the recruiting circuit a couple times, and I bounced some ideas off of him. And he always seemed like he had great knowledge. And what I know I wanted to do is I wanted to keep parts of the system in place. And he's obviously played in the system, knows the system, coached in it, was quarterback in it, so he understands it. But then I also challenged him in the interview process. Said, this is what I know. How do you merge this with what you know? And he literally gave me a great presentation. I saw it developing in the spring. And I think what you're going to see offensively is a blend of both worlds, which I love. So I'm excited about him. And then the players, they love him. They love him. They play hard for him, and that's what I want. Then Coach Farrell, he's been here for forever. He knows this place in and out. He's been a great resource to me. Another guy I knew before I hired him. I knew I wanted to do to pick his brain. And after about a couple weeks together, he was such a big resource to me. I made him my assistant head coach because I see something in him that is special. I think he can be a head coach someday, and I want to get to him what PJ gave to me and help him get there. And then CJ Cox, I'll tell you this, I called guys about CJ Cox, and several people told me, if you don't hire him, I won't hire him. So I dug in even more to him, and he's been probably the biggest blessing to me on defense because he has a great understanding of every single position in our depth on defense. And he knows where we've been weak at and we got fixed. And then he's just a really good guy and a really good person. Our guys love him as well. So I think it's really important. And those guys have been very beneficial. And they are starting to align with me and my vision. And it's been great, honestly.
Thank you very much.
Let's keep things rolling along. And Rob's partner in crime, Tom Evans. Tom, any questions here for Coach?
I love the partner in crime moniker there. Thanks, Dan. Coach, it was great to see you the other night over in Westlake too. Thanks for bringing your coordinators with you. That was a pretty great night, Coach. I'm a big ugly guy, and I hear you talk about the talent that you bring back, and I really I think Rumler and some of those guys. But that offensive line, that's one of those positions that sometimes the sum needs to be greater than the individual parts, and you can't find that out until you start knocking heads a little bit. So you've been doing all this work. Is this a situation where you're going into a new situation? You got 5 new starters that maybe you get a little more physical up front early to find out if there's some, I'm going to give you another C word, continuity there. We know you want to run the ball. Do you try and find that out early on?
Yeah. You hit it right on the, you hit the nail right on the head. And so in spring ball, I remember I met with each player after spring ball, and they said to me, "This is the most physical spring ball they've ever been a part of." And that was the purpose of that. We were attempting to get an identity up front and find out who could be that tough mindset, who can get the nails, like I'll get the nails look every. And we found some guys that definitely meet that. Then after that, after we saw spring ball, we went back and me and Coach Linder. We said, okay, what's our weakness now? We knew we needed maybe one more guy. Then we also need some depth. So we went to the transfer portal and got Jim Toe, kid from Temple, who's a really good player that Coach Linder had recruited before when he was at I believe Penn State. And then we also had a guy from Marshall, Tristan Bittner, coming as well, who played at Marshall, who's a really good player. So we created some depth. So to me, like we're gonna the first week, and once we get in the full pads, I'll do what I do, and that's I'm gonna run the ball and see who can block and they can go. And then after that, we'll definitely start to pull back week 2 and week 3 of fall camp. But you're exactly right. I mean, we got to see how these guys can get off the ball, and I truly believe that the O line and D line, they set the tone for what you can be. They've got to have a different edge about them. They've got to own their line of scrimmage, the LOS, and we've got to create situations where they know how to influence. And that's what you're talking about, creating the toughness, a mindset of continuity. The guys can play hard, play physical, play together. So yeah, that's a great question. We're going to do some things before camp together to bring that toughness out.
Good stuff, Coach. Monday night you talked about finishing games too, and very oftentimes that a lot of those outcomes, especially in the MAC, are one series type things. Do you gear your practices? Do you add a session where you just focus on, hey, last 4 minutes, last 6 minutes of the game, and maybe ramp it up a little bit to get a mindset about that, or is that something that you just build off from quarter 1 through quarter 4?
No, so we're one thing I'm really big on, and I actually learned this from PJ, is situational football. We are constantly putting in situations. This third down, if it's green, we call it green zone, red zone. It's short yardage goal line. It's coming out backed up. We work with this constantly every single day. We actually, I'm the head. I install things for our football team. So I'll do a team meeting. I'll install the situation. What I'm looking for as a head coach, offensive, defense, and have a coordinator talking about what the situation is to them. And then we'll break into our positional meetings, and they'll talk about it even more from a positional standpoint, what that situation means. And I think the biggest thing is, I say a smarter player is a better player. If you understand the situation and how to handle it, and why the play is being called, you have a better chance to maximize that situation. That's what practice. We create a period of practice we call narrow, and games are won with narrow margins, basically. And what narrow does is it's a period of practice where it's basically make or break time. Okay, a certain situation in the game, the clock is at a certain situation. Offense, you get a first down, the game's over. It could be that situation. Defense, get the ball back, leave the ball back, put it down. Okay, somebody has to win or lose, and the game's either over or you know what, we have more fights. So there's stuff like that we create. There's obviously 2 minutes. There's all kinds of stuff that fall in that narrow period where this is a situation to win a game, 2-point play, etc. So you try to create those and try to do your best, but like anything, they don't really know until they get into the pressure of the situation of a game how to handle it. So I think everything, the learning comes with repetition, right? And that's the mother of all learning. So we got to do it in games, obviously, but yeah, we do emphasize it in practice as well with that narrow period.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
All right, we got some questions here coming from the fans. A couple giving their love from Springfield. So I know it's near and dear to your heart.
Yeah.
Whose stock has been rising the most since spring ball? So one on offense and one on defense. It's really kind of caught your eye.
Yeah, I'll say Gavin Garcia. Gavin Garcia is, again, a great football player. I've seen the development of him since I first walked here. What I love about Gavin is he wants to be coached. When you have a guy who's eager to be coached, who's a sponge, who has ability, it excites you. It excites you as a coach. Muhammad Ibrahim at Minnesota, the All-American, first team All-American. He was that way. He wanted to be coached. He wanted to be taught like he was a freshman every single day. He wanted something new. And that's what I see in Gavin. I see that kind of eagerness. And I'm excited about him very much so. And then also, I'll give you another one off. Luke Burrier is another one that I wasn't expecting much out of Luke, honestly. In the spring, he was by far our best receiver. And I think he'll have a big role this year in the slot. He's gritty. He's got a little edge to him. He's consistent with his hands, catches the ball well. He runs good routes. He's been in the system for a while and understands it. I think any quarterback that was back there felt comfortable with him. So for those of you guys that this talk is definitely drives for me. On defense, the 2D linemen, I'm really impressed with Stephen Daly. I think he's going to be. I think when you see this guy play, he's going to jump off the screen. He's big. We just had a meeting with the strength staff before this. They gave me kind of the numbers of the summer, what each guy did individually, how good they grew. He by far had the best growth this summer. If you look at every aspect of being an athlete. But he's more explosive. He's got the power. He's one of the strongest guys on our football team. He's twitchy. And again, he's a guy that's going to jump off the screen at you. Then the other interior line is Oliver Phillips. He's a guy that moved inside. Both of these kids are young kids, but I mean, they look like grown men, and they play that way. The more they get repetition, the more they're going to be, I think, special players. And that excites me about the future of our football program as well. So those are guys who I think the stock is going like this, and I'm excited about what they're going to do at fall camp. And I'm going to put them in roles to lead our football team because I trust them, and I know what they believe in, what they stand for. But those are guys I think are going to jump off the screen for you this fall.
And we'll leave you with kind of this note here from our fan group. What's been the biggest coaching lesson that you've learned as your journey has led you to be a head coach here at Kent State?
That's a great question. The biggest thing I've learned is probably there's always to listen. That's probably the biggest thing is that your job as a leader is to make decisions for sure. Okay, but within that decision, you have to listen to what the people need around you, and listen to the ideas and suggestions. Listen to the concerns that people have, and make a really educated decision. Because a lot of times you make decisions of what your gut tells you, your heart tells you what you want, and I don't think that's always the best decision. So what I've learned is that listen, take everything in, go back, process it, and do what makes sense to you. And that's part of the biggest thing I've learned from this 7 months sitting in the chair. Hold on a second, your emotions tell you to do one thing, pause. Let's listen to the data, what people say, and handle this program with care. And I always say, as a head coach, the football program is so fragile. It's like a glass of vase. You've got to hold it with two hands and be very careful with how you deal with it, how you handle the situation, so it doesn't break and fall apart. So yeah, listening.
All right, Coach. Well, that's going to wrap us up. Thank you to our media members that hopped on, especially our fans from around the United States. And Coach, any final thoughts as we put a bow on this?
Come out, enjoy it. I am excited about this team, the most opportunistic team in the country. But enjoy it. We'd love to see everybody at Dick Stadium and down in Orlando for the first game. Again, like I said to start this thing off, there's going to be a lot of growth that happens throughout the season. When you see our players know they're working hard to make you proud and put your arms around them, love them. They're here for you. We're excited, and go Flashes, kick great.
And we are out.